Serial Experiments Lain episode 10. Last one was interested in more of like a documentary-esque sort of style, it kind of felt like, following through the certain key points, I guess, in history that have, I guess, cumulatively come together over the years to kind of become what ended up being, and I can't remember Buddy's name, but the guy that we end up seeing by the back end, who likely is fully and largely responsible for what we are actually entertaining here with The Wired, or at least the generation of The Wired that we are kind of within. And it's interesting how it all basically compiled itself together and ended up coming to a point that allowed one individual, at least one individual, to have these certain thought processes and through trial and error and stuff from the things that have occurred in the past and have been thought of and theorized on through these people have led him in, I guess, the mankind itself to this certain solution that he ended up finding, which I don't necessarily agree with. It feels we're going, heavy Ava, we need to become one type of thing, which is like still mad weird. And it's just not right. But I can, I guess, kind of at least understand why a person may, at the end of the day, feel that's the sort of thing that we need. Although I disagree entirely, but it's where we happen to find ourselves at in this situation. Lots of questions that I'm still completely unsure of and confused on, which are likely things that even if they do clarify here will only become clear to me have I go back and rewatch it at some point after completion and knowing the things to look out for and what actually occurs. But hopefully we do clear up some of those things too as we push a little bit forward. We're now faced against this other guy who, like I said, sorry, I can't remember his name right now. I have no clue at all what's going to happen with Lain facing forward against him. So we'll have to end up seeing. My assumption too is he's like the creator and all that of it all, is so he's God would be my assumption, or the God that at least we hear speaking to Lain, the one that everyone assumes is the case, or it just kind of refers to him as that. That would be my assumption. So we'll see if all that stuff kind of gets proven right in some sort of way here. Hopefully you guys do enjoy though. If you like it all, like and subscribe and want to me, feel free to stick around with the discussion. Let me comments of this episode are seriously going with episode 10. No dialogue prior, which was interesting because usually we start every episode with some sort of like crazy crazy mindset. And this is him. I am faced at the presence of him. It's not what I would picture him to look like. Okay, so it definitely was. I want to say his name's like Eri or something, but I can't remember. You can't tell by his voice and the echo in it. Only certain people have a voice like that. What do you mean by that? Whoa. Yeah, that's literally the like some of the opening thoughts. Yep. We have seen them. God. No more, no less. What a weird conversation. So what actually makes... Okay. You made them so your status could almost be confirmed.
肉体なんていらないんだよ、レイ。
そんなの嘘だ。
Weird. Is her presence no longer observed by others? Yeah. Ah, they erased her. You no longer have a need. Oh, that's not true. Yeah, all right. Fuck you. And Ben standing. She gonna snap. Just passed along. Pass right through you.
私リアルだよ。私生きてるよ。私ここにいるんだよ。どうしてこんなことになっちゃったのかな。私が何かしちゃったのかな。そういうことにならないようにっていつも私気をつけてたのに、変なこと言っちゃわないかいつも気をつけてたのに。そうなのかな、やっぱり。
あなたはリアルワールドには必要がないんだよ。
Things are gonna get bad really fucking quick here. At least they have the potential to. A place of belonging for you, created for you to feel real, for you to feel accepted, taken from you, and then being told everything that you least want to hear. Similar to Return from the Station. There's no one around. Death. Want to explain some stuff?
これでお別れです、レインさん。もうご存知になったんでしょ。私たちの仕事は終わったんです。短い間でしたが、大したお世話もできずで。あなたはこれからどうしようと自由です。いや、最初からあなたは自由だったんだ。お別れを言う許可は得ていないのですが、私はあなたが好きだった。別に家族ごっこが楽しかったわけじゃない。あなたという存在が私には羨ましかったのかもしれません。
From the beginning.
私を一人にしないで。
一人じゃないですよ。
You could never be.
ワイヤードにコネクトすれば誰もがあなたを迎えてくれる。
Isn't that the whole point?
存在だったんです、あなたは。
Always were. Wow.
ここはあなたの世界よ、レイン。
I want to be real.
ナイツって誰なの。嘘の私を作ったのはそいつらなんでしょ。
ワイヤードが生まれる以前から見えない人と人とのネットワーク、集合的無意識を彼らは利用してきたの。
Are they saying in forms of gods?
ナイツって誰なの。
それが知りたいのね、レイン。
ワイヤードの神が神であるの。それを崇める者がいるから。
Back to the beginning. Oh, back here. No one's here though. Yeah. He's waiting. He's like the oldest one here.
ミュウだって十分子供じゃん。
女の子はいいの。女の子は若い方がいいに決まってんだから。ね、太郎。
なんだよそれ。
太郎、どうしたの？ネットに
Yeah, all the
何か
knights.
言ってんの？
リストだ。
え、何のリスト？
ナイツのメンバーのリストがどうしてネットニュースになんて。
Oh, fuck. I can't believe it either. I don't actually know why. Sir, we're gonna need you to come with us.
声を出さないでください。
なんだあんたら。けじめをつけような。なんの。
What was that? It was a liquid? He's easy to. Oh.
ママ、やられちゃったよ。ママ、
Yeah, so did she.
次ママの番だよ。早くしないと僕は続けちゃうよ。
Yeah, suicides, right.
管理局、警察が原因の究明に乗り出しています。自殺したのはいずれもネットワーク関連。
All their names possibly were also on a list that was revealed today for some reason. What the fuck?
なんであんなこと
Those were some bad people.
私たちのクライアントからの。
The old guy?
あなたは世界中のナイツを借り出してくれた。我々の仲間が現在一斉に処理に回っています。
そんなこと。
ワイヤードは特別な世界であってはならない。あくまでもリアルワールドを補強するサブシステムとして機能すべき。
Hmm.
だから
あんたもワイヤードの中じゃあってはならない存在なんだよ。でもあんたは無事じゃないか。どうやらあんたには神とやらのご加護があるらしい。
いずれ営利正美の残留思念プログラムもワイヤードからディスインフェクトされます。私たちのクライアントはプロトコル7のコードを全面的に
Okay, yeah, so all of that starts making a ton of sense. Their original goal to progress possibly
必
faster.
要ないのですよ。
そう、ワイヤードでもリアルワール
Hmm. I wonder in what sense they mean too with gods in the real world. The typical perceived version that we have here.
私たちにはあなたが何なのか未だに理解できていない。
I honestly don't think I have either. I had assumptions, but every episode that passes, I start thinking other
し
things.
かし私はあなたが好きだ。
Because you gave us our
不
hope.
思議な感情ですね。愛というのは。
I like how he removes it so he can see it with his own eyes too.
さてどうしようかな。
お祈りする人がいなくなっちゃったよ。
それじゃあ神じゃなくなっちゃうね。でも全員消えたわけじゃない。一人でも信仰を持つ者がいれば僕は神になれ
Okay.
る。
Does your power still remain the same though?
嫌だな。
You, yeah.
君のことさね。君が君でいられるのは僕のおかげなんだよ。
Because without me, you would cease to exist.
ワイヤードの中で生まれた存在なんだ。ワイヤードの中の伝説。ワイヤードの中。
So you can do away with everything you want. That's fucked. But at the same time, it just goes right back to what he stated at the beginning, and she would lose her own self, right?
そのホログラムに過ぎない。人工リボゾームによるホムンクルス。君の実体などもともとないんだよ。
嘘よ。
I don't think it
嘘の
is.
家族、嘘の友達。そう、全部嘘だったんだ。
嘘だよ。
Your existence itself is a lie. As it fades itself.
かわいそうなレイン。
Hmm.
もう一人ぼっち。 でも僕がいる。愛しているこの僕がいる。君をこの世界に送ってあげた僕を君は愛してくれるはずだ。
The man who even gave you anything. Yeah.
君の創造主だ。
Your entire existence.
僕を愛して。
That's so fucking weird.
一人の私が
もう一人じゃない。本当の君さ。
どっちでもいいよ、そんなの。
You didn't account for that one. Oh. We end where we started. In typical Lain fashion, I'm just going to lay out some random stuff and I'm going to talk about how confused I am. And then you guys are going to let me know why I'm dumb for not picking up on the things. And then we're going to move into the next episode. Does that sound good? I think it sounds good to me. That's usually what happens. This is one of those episodes that just feels like it gave us the info. It gave us what we need to know, and I just can't comprehend what's happening at all. But I will lay it out in the best of my abilities for what I believe is occurring here, and then I will relate it to some stuff, and then I will talk about why I don't understand some things, and then you guys will tell me that I'm not thinking of it properly, and then we'll have that all cleared, and hopefully then we move into the next episode and everything's good, right? Okay, that's kind of what I think that we end up hoping happens. So, confirmation on a variety of things, essentially things that almost, I guess, could have been suspected or assumed leading up into this point. So maybe don't come as like the craziest reveals in any sort of way because they've been hinted in different varieties here, with Eri kind of coming in and essentially being the god that we're seeing from The Wire, the creator of everything that's happened within whatever we're in Gen 7 or whatever, and allowed for everything that's kind of occurring in this scenario to actually occur. All things speculated from us last week with the last episode, it all kind of came to life. So it's cool. All right, we got that out of the way. Now he ends up having a conversation and everything with Lain at the beginning, where I believe we're showcasing some sort of thing in power, whether it's a control version of him, as we end up getting to be able to see. And honestly, now that I'm going through it, it might just be better to start through the episode here. So before we even get into that, actually, let me pull back for a quick second. We get a sequence here where we typically do get like sequences like this at the beginning, but there's no dialogue or anything, where usually we do have something that they want to tell us at the start. So it's just interesting to kind of note that that's a situation. Okay, now with all of that out of the way, this entire conversation is weird because we essentially switch between the perspective of the two of them with the way that they talk and the way that we have like the echo and everything kind of like behind their voice, making it seem like there's some other special figure or whatever, giving that ability to Eri and Lain at different moments, making me at least under the assumption that he has some sort of ability to control or alter or possess her mind or something in some sort of way to actually like take over and control that. Well, maybe not being entirely the case, and maybe as a reference in some sort of way to showcase the actual power and ability and stuff that she has, for her to kind of occupy that same space, maybe that he does, this person who proclaimed himself to be a god. I guess it also could be the other way, and I'm not entirely certain on what that whole scenario and everything ends up meaning. But essentially, we do talk about here with people being gods and having people that are kind of following them, and he pushes her even further, more and more, to kind of remove her body, remove herself from the world, and kind of just be one within the Wired, saying that there is no more need for that, and finding that there is no need for that. And that's what Chisa's here for, right? That's what she was here for from the beginning, with I think the opening lines and the initial things that we see when she ends up killing herself at the beginning of what this really is, finding that there is a place of belonging and somewhere that she can actually be and exist at the same time, and does not actually need to have a physical form anymore, because all of that stuff gets relieved. Where my mind immediately always goes there too is people who constantly go through endless suffering and a bunch of things feel that the only escape and the only way out is through relief of that. So usually death being that sort of barrier that they're trying to cross to free themselves from everything. So it feels like that's kind of what Chisa did, but it almost seems like she was convinced in some sort of way that allowed her to have this moment of clarity in some sort of way that allowed her to get freed up. But it makes me really question and wonder, because I don't think I fully grasp the timeline possibly with the things being discovered later with, you know, the fake and real Lain, and figuring out that everything's not real and she's not real and everything else. So it's one of those, if this was something that was her start point, and that's when all of this actually occurred, was say at the death and the time of her, Chisa has a more relation and relevance to this whole scenario that I'm kind of even picking up on or getting at. But if we are going the route of Lain and all that stuff, the fake versions of all the stuff that was created in some sort of way at some point ended up leading us to what ended up happening with Chisa later, could just be used more as a device to kind of convince her even further of the lack of need for a physical body within this universe or this world. But I'm not exactly sold or certain on which timeline I guess that we're kind of following when it comes to that. But we do relate all that back perfectly, which is nice. You always like to see the things, especially when they're brought up early in the series, that can potentially be things that get forgotten about at some point, get brought back up in some sort of way. So I think that is pretty cool. I'm able to see all these things, the name, the history, memories, literally whatever I kind of need. I can live forever within the wire. That's why it's such a special place. That's where you should actually be. With nobody to worship me, I am a no god. So what do? You go out of your way and you make the creation of the knights. You create a group of people, you force a group of people essentially into believing and observing your presence, which essentially means that you no longer need to exist because you do gain all this extra power or whatever it is that comes from it. Lain continuously denying and thinking, you know, there is a purpose for me and I do belong here, and none of the things that you're saying are true, and that can't be the case, and I am real. And her constant struggle and battle that she's gone through for episode on episode now of who the real version of her is and what it is and why this other one exists, but having knowledge of that and being completely confused entirely has always been fascinating. So her fully being able to realize a lot of that stuff after being told this episode, still being in denial itself, is really fun. The whole idea, though, let me go back a bit, but the whole idea of the stuff with the gods and needing to have somebody almost to kind of believe in you, or be like a worshiper in some sort of way, because without that you end up not being a god, is really always a extremely interesting thing. And for whatever reason, the first thing, which I guess it probably shouldn't be, but it doesn't really matter, that comes to my mind is that one, and I don't know the name, I can't remember. It's a comedy anime that came out last year that had like the really bad CG in it. And it's essentially about like people who have like, there's gods in this world, right? And if they don't have any, depending on the amount of worshipers and followers and everything that they have, they end up gaining, and their power levels and stuff kind of go up and down. So when you lose followers and people have faith in like the others instead of them, it looks bad. So you have to kind of put on certain performances and things so that they can kind of view you in like this greater light to end up gaining you more and more power. It kind of immediately almost goes to that, which essentially still follows, I guess, here. I mean, nobody's going to actually believe in, and that does work to an extent where, like, even if you take in our own real life and our present here, where the amount of people, the more people who are followers within certain religions and believers and gods, the stronger almost that sense of like, these people aren't lying is. And it kind of works with things, even not when it comes to gods, but when it comes to literally anything else. You can have a rumor or just like general belief or general assumption based on things, and the more and more people that you get to believe something, the more true it essentially almost seems to be, while it may not actually be true, and sometimes it isn't. It just ends up appearing that way, which is where a lot of like myths and rumors and like all these other things can kind of stem from, is the belief and ignorance that ends up coming as a result of that. But the more people that you have following behind it, and more people who are stuck on that thought or that idea, ends up causing this to be greater and more grand than it actually is, and hold more value than it actually is. And regardless of if you know, say, what the truth possibly is versus what isn't, or whatever, in any of these scenarios, ends up putting us in a situation where you seem like the stupid one, or you seem like the crazy one, and you're the one in the wrong because everybody else kind of believes in this, and that thing just holds more power at the end of the day, because that's what the hive itself is kind of forming behind here. So it's a weird thing, but it makes makes perfect sense here. And that's exactly what we end up seeing. That's why we have to go later down the line, and the goal, essentially, it seems like it comes from the members of the lab, and the people who are working with like Carl and all the others are essentially trying to eliminate these knights, because if the knights, the ones who are created in a way to worship this god, who give him his own purpose, who give him his recognition and give him his power, probably end up being eliminated entirely, what is he? And he is no god at that point. And are we placing God as something that just has a label on it? Does he still have the ability of everything that he is causing and doing within this virtual space to actually be a thing? Like, can he still do all of this stuff without his worshippers, or does he truly need to have somebody like that for his own existence in a way to be confirmed? Without you observing that in any sort of way, your own existence will never actually be confirmed, which is a bad thing. And that's where Lain ends up finding herself in too, right? By creating all these fake people, or creating and putting these memories and planting this stuff kind of onto all these things within whatever this fake version that they actually have are, she gets observed as a real person, until the point that you can end up removing all of that, because she ends up putting it to the test here. And now what do you have left? And nobody observes you anymore, and you end up verifying for yourself that none of that stuff actually exists, and she gets stuck and caught even more in her own head, which is a massive issue for her. So of course we got to go to school the next day, and look, absolutely nobody's paying attention to you, and they don't notice you at all. Your desk is gone. The erasing of just you and your own presence in general, getting passed up while they're just trying to hand out these papers because you're not even real. Why is this happening? I didn't even do anything, you know? I always try to just be a normal person, but it's like, what's happening? It's the feed almost, and the work through Arian, what he's trying to do here to convince her even further that he's not telling a lie, that all of this stuff is truthful, that you are not real, that you never were, and none of this stuff was. And it pushes her even further to the point of belief that, yeah, maybe my existence here shouldn't be a thing, and I don't need this body, and I should allow for my full physical or my full mental self in any sort of way, my conscious self, to be placed within the wired, and that's it. Now, I don't get entirely, and I don't think I even will at some point, what the purpose of all this is. Like, why any of this is happening, because my belief, and I could be wrong, and maybe they did state this and I just didn't understand it properly or follow it, but it almost seems like he was the creation of something to put her in the scenario to allow her to have this fake present self that she's in. So if that is the case, why exactly is she like, why are we trying to now eliminate that and remove that and create one and allow her to be there? Was it just something of a test in some sort of way that allowed for the crossing of the barriers between the two worlds, essentially to kind of have some sort of thing where if we put somebody else on this side and they're able to realistically find out about this other stuff and then realize and recognize how great the things are on the other side are, we're able to cause some sort of reaction in some sort of way, and through her own existence here, even though it's not real, she's able to gain some sort of like power or thing, or maybe it just creates like a stronger sense of people wanting to follow within the wired or whatever. I don't really know. That's where I get like more so confused. Like, I would understand why he would fully want her present within there, but outside of that, like, why we're going through the other steps of causing like this fake version and having her go through this crisis and everything that she is mentally, I don't fully think I get and understand that. And then she ends up coming home, absolutely nobody's here, things are just kind of, I mean, there's some stuff here, but things are empty. The death between that, it's like nobody's been taking care of it. I assume this was her room, but I think it might actually be her sister's room as she continues to go through them, because that's where we get the initial flashes and everything that we see of her here until her dad comes in and he's like, oh, this is it. I mean, we knew the end of the experiment would be coming up relatively soon, and here we are. I don't know what his role is either, because then it makes me wonder, like, was the essential full setup of what we have here in the fake creation of all this stuff in some sort of way essentially set up as a thing directed by like Carl and his other people as some sort of way to push her further into the exposing of the evil doings that are possibly happening here, which then gets her to be pushed even further to want to expose the members of the Knights, and then allows them to progress and do the things that they need to. Was it like some sort of elaborate thing on that end, or was this truly all set through Eri and then they're just kind of utilizing all of this other stuff to their own advantage? I don't actually know, because it does feel a little weird if like that was the creation of it, and then like we're giving like all these positive things of being like, I actually liked you and like cared for you and all these things and like enjoyed our time for like whatever it actually is, and all of that stuff when that's not the case. Like if Eri, why would he set that up and then allow this guy to like even go out of his way and like do or say any of these things? But I guess also it could just come down to this of you're never actually alone and you don't want to be alone, but that's fine because if you connect yourself to the wired, everybody wants you to be there, which has kind of been something it seems like he's been pushing for since the beginning, the initial sequence of seeing him through with like all the screens and everything in the first episode. So I don't know. I guess that would actually make sense because he is pushing that narrative a little bit more, a little bit further. Lain's completely losing it, and she's mad at this point. She's completely pissed, and rightfully so. So of course she targets the knights in some sort of way and wants to put things out there, which doesn't actually go correct in any sort of way. Because things get really bad as we end up finding out the knights end up all getting exposed, which then allows her to not even do anything at this point, but then allows for everybody else in this group to come through and just kind of eliminate them completely, which is what their goal is, right? Eliminate all the worshippers so that this person has no more reason for their existence. They can shut down entirely what's going on within the wired, and then at that point when all of that stuff is broken and shut, you no longer have any worshippers and you no longer have somebody seeing this person for being like a god, which then can cause them to go in and cause them to kind of refine and allow for the wired to live as its own separate entity entirely and not have any of the nonsense and the things that are kind of going between it, as all the members are taken out, I think, between here. And Lain is just fucked up completely. I don't even know what's happening in this situation. Essentially being like drained out, it kind of feels like. This whole sequence is just weird. Like I don't actually... Like, it's them more so explaining what they're doing and why they're doing it. This guy laughing constantly, I'm not getting either. Like, that just doesn't seem to really make much sense or work for me. We have no need for gods in this world or any world, really. And I don't know if he means people who perceive themselves to be gods and act as though they can, like, do whatever and people to worship them and do that, or if we mean, like, the sense that people kind of view gods in some sort of way while not being able to observe, but maybe not directly influence like a variety of things, or letting things play natural courses in some sort of way, or just reserving some sort of space for them is like an afterlife sort of thing. In what exact fashion possibly they mean, I don't think that necessarily matters much, but they are trying to eliminate this sense at least. And then him being like, him taking this off, essentially seeing her with his own eyes, still not being aware of who she even is at all, or what this being that essentially isn't even real that he's observing either, and letting him know that he loves her is just weird. Because I don't get behind it completely. My idea would be just trying to not make it like weird, you know, like, he's fucking pedophile, look at him, you know what I mean? Like, not trying to make it like that, but more so trying to look at it in the light of like, you gave us an opportunity by allowing us to follow you and like do all this for so long, then you put these guys out here who we've been chasing after for so long to shut this thing down and give us and mankind like another chance possibly to progress and move forward. Like, so I really love and appreciate you just basically for that and giving us this opportunity. Is it like more in that sense, or is it something else entirely that I can't even get? Love's a strange emotion, yeah, because you essentially hate this person, all the things that they've caused. You've had to like spend hours and days just kind of observing and watching over them, and all the things we're dealing with are likely also as a result of you and because of who you are. But at the end of the day, we kind of appreciate what you're doing until we get the end sequence, which is also just weird as fuck too. Yeah, you got nothing left, so what are you still here for? I can be a god because you still believe in me, which also I still don't fully get this either. Like, I get the idea of she still has a believer and it's her, but why that's the case? Is it just because he's the creator in some sort of way? So, like, there's nothing that we can ever do to kind of overwrite those memories or remove them in anything from her, from having this sort of belief in it? Like, he literally has started all this and the Legend of the Wire and all of that. Like, this is as a result of him and he's in full control here. This is where he explains a bunch of the stuff about her essentially being like this homunculus and all this stuff not being real and lies, and him having to deal with it as he professes his love even further. This has literally happened 3 times this episode. Now, you should love me, your creator. Like, it's mad weird, but alright, is what it is. But like, so this is where it was like weird, because it's the personality shift almost, like when she like does this and he seems to be like taken aback by it. And I don't know if he's happy. Like, I don't know if that's supposed to be a smile or what it is. Like, my mind immediately went towards like initial theories of like, oh, we have these different personalities, but also like theories of a wired version of her possibly living somehow within this hologram type fake version of her that we're also having here, that's kind of coming out and speaking its own mind. That while you might have this other version that actually still loves you or might actually still believe in you, there's another version within me that doesn't. So if I kill off that other version somehow, or can figure out some way to kind of just live as this other side of me, there will be no more existence of you, which then won't have to result in the version of Lain that would probably have to kind of just sacrifice or kill her own body to allow herself to fully just go into the wired, which is essentially what he's trying to get out of her. But also that doesn't seem to add up or make too much sense to me either. So like I'm a little stuck, I guess, on there, but maybe we get some more answers as we go forward. Yeah, basically a bunch of stuff. So hey, I don't really know. Hopefully I made some of it make sense. Hopefully you can understand where I'm coming from on a bunch of it, and hopefully we're on some sort of good track. I'm gonna try and watch the next one and like get more ahead, as I've been falling behind on like a bunch of stuff here. So like maybe I'm even gonna have another one or two done before this even goes up, but maybe I won't. I don't really know. So leave comments regardless, because they'll still help me regardless of where I'm at, or even if I'm done with the series somehow by then. But yeah, interesting. Hopefully you guys enjoyed though. If you liked it all, like and subscribe and want to me, feel free to check out the video and channel and comments with this video series. I'll be back for episode 11 soon, very soon. You guys have a great one. Peace.